Imagine a scenario in which the way to dominating your feelings, activities, and predetermination is restraint. In a world loaded with interruptions and enticements, discretion is the genuine superpower that drives achievement. It's not necessary to focus on being great, it's tied in with remaining on track, pursuing purposeful decisions, and assuming responsibility for your responses. In the force of discretion, dominating your feelings, activities, and fate, figure out how to beat hasty choices, assemble discipline, and assume command over your life. Ace yourself, and you can dominate anything. Section 1. What is poise, and what difference does it make? Restraint is the capacity to deal with your viewpoints, feelings, and activities, in any event, when confronted with enticements or difficulties. It's tied in with remaining in charge of your choices, rather than letting motivations or outside impacts direct your life. Envision having the option to stop prior to responding to an unpleasant circumstance, or adhering to an objective, in any event, when interruptions attempt to pull you away. That is poise in real life. It's your inner strength directing you toward the main thing. However, for what reason does restraint matter to such an extent? Since it's the establishment for pretty much every sort of accomplishment. Whether you need to assemble better propensities, succeed in your profession, work on your connections, or accomplish long-haul objectives, poise is the key. Without it, even all that plans can self-destruct. It assists you with fighting the temptation to stop when circumstances become difficult, stay away from superfluous struggles, and settle on decisions that line up with your greater picture. To put it plainly, poise engages you to assume responsibility for your life, rather than being helpless before short-lived feelings or interruptions. One of the best advantages of restraint is the means by which it works on your associations with others and yourself. At the point when you can deal with your responses, you're less inclined to erupt out of resentment or dissatisfaction. This makes more grounded bonds and constructs in trust with individuals around you. Simultaneously, restraint assists you with remaining lined up with your qualities, helping your self-esteem and certainty. The more you practice poise, the more you understand that you are equipped for accomplishing fantastic things. What's more, that is an illustration worth learning. Feelings and activities are profoundly associated, frequently impacting each other in manners we don't for a moment even understand. At the point when you feel furious, baffled, or overpowered, it's not difficult to act indiscreetly, saying or doing things you could later lament. Then again, positive feelings like fervor or appreciation can rouse activities that lead to development and achievement. Understanding this connection is urgent on the grounds that feelings are in many cases the secret drivers behind your decisions, no matter what. At the point when feelings assume control over, they can cloud your judgment and steer you away from your objectives. For instance, stress could entice you to leave a drawn-out plan for guaranteed solace, or dread might prevent you from facing a challenge that could transform you. Therefore, mindfulness is so significant. By perceiving the feelings behind your activities, you can stop, survey what is happening, and pursue a conscious decision as opposed to responding incautiously. Fortunately, you can prepare yourself to get a handle on this association among feelings and activities. Rather than allowing your sentiments to direct your way of behaving, you can involve them as signs to direct your choices. For instance, dissatisfaction can persuade you to track down an improved arrangement, and dread can push you to get ready all the more completely. By figuring out how to channel your feelings into useful activities, you divert them from snags into amazing assets for development. Dominating the connection among feelings and activities empowers you to answer instead of respond. This shift can change your life, assisting you with keeping up with center, settle on more astute choices, and remain consistent with your objectives, in any event, when feelings run high. When you comprehend that your activities don't need to be constrained by your sentiments, you open a degree of opportunity and power that separates you from the individuals who are governed by their motivations. Driving forces and enticements are a characteristic piece of life, yet figuring out how to beat them is the way to building discretion and accomplishing your drawn-out objectives. Motivations frequently emerge from our mind's craving for surefire satisfaction, whether it's enjoying unfortunate things to do, dawdling, or keeping away from awkward errands. While these desires can feel strong at the time, they frequently crash progress and lead to lament later. Fortunately, defeating them is an expertise you can create. The initial step to overcoming driving forces is mindfulness. Perceive the triggers that make you act imprudently. Is it weariness, stress, or a requirement for moment delight? When you distinguish the source, it becomes simpler to delay and settle on a cognizant decision as opposed to surrendering. For instance, in the event that pressure causes you to want low-quality food, recognizing the connection permits you to pick a better survival technique like activity or profound breathing as opposed to going after snacks. Another strong technique is to make hindrances among yourself and allurement. Assuming that you realize you're enticed to scroll interminably on your telephone, put forth courses of events or move diverting applications off your home screen. In the event that you're inclined to drive spending, leave your MasterCard at home or make a holding up period prior to making buys. These little changes make sufficient distance to permit your coherent brain to step in and assist you with pursuing better choices. Building self-control is additionally about moving your concentration from momentary cravings to long-haul benefits. Ask yourself, will this decision carry me nearer to the existence I need or will it keep me down? Picturing the prizes of remaining restrained can propel you to push through inclinations and remain focused on your objectives. Each time you oppose enticement, you fortify your restraint, making it more straightforward to defeat future difficulties. At last, don't be too severe with yourself in the event that you goof. Defeating driving forces is a cycle and difficulties are important for the excursion. Rather than allowing a solitary error to crash you, consider what caused it and utilize the experience as a valuable open door. With persistence and practice, you'll find it more straightforward to oppose allurements, construct more grounded propensities and keep fixed on the main thing. Over the long run, discretion will feel less like a battle and more like a characteristic piece of what your identity is. Mental strength is the underpinning of discretion. It permits you to remain on track, go with deliberate decisions and oppose the interruptions and enticements that attempt to pull you away from your objectives. Very much like actual strength, mental strength can be worked through reliable practice and little, conscious activities. At the point when your brain major areas of strength for is, control turns out to be to a lesser degree a fight and even more a characteristic reaction. The most vital phase in developing mental fortitude is preparing your concentration. In the present high-speed world, interruptions are all over the place and it is basic to figure out how to control your consideration. Begin by rehearsing care, investing energy right now without allowing your considerations to meander. Exercises like reflection, journaling, or even a tranquil walk can assist you with focusing your brain. The more you train your concentration, the simpler it becomes to coordinate your energy towards significant undertakings and oppose rash choices. One more method for reinforcing your psyche is by embracing inconvenience. Mental strength develops when you deal with difficulties directly as opposed to staying away from them. This could mean venturing beyond your usual range of familiarity, pushing through snapshots of uncertainty or handling errands you'd prefer stay away from. Each time you pick discipline over ease, you fabricate the psychological strength expected to keep up with poise even in tough spots. Keep in mind, development doesn't occur in solace. It occurs in the battle. Defining clear limits for yourself additionally braces your psychological strength. At the point when you characterize your non-negotiables, whether it's adhering to a timetable, keeping away from poisonous connections or focusing on a sound propensity, you lessen the psychological energy spent on direction. Limits go about as a defensive safeguard, keeping interruptions and enticements under control, so you can zero in on your needs without continually discussing your decisions. At last, developing mindfulness is critical to dominating mental strength. Focus on your viewpoints, sentiments and ways of behaving. At the point when you perceive your close-to-home triggers or examples of tarrying, you can address them proactively as opposed to responding rashly. Mindfulness permits you to pursue cognizant choices as opposed to being constrained by transitory feelings. Over the long run, as you develop your psychological fortitude, you'll find that restraint turns out to be natural, directing you toward a more focused and deliberate life. The job of propensities in dominating activities. Propensities are the structure blocks of discretion and achievement. They shape your activities and choices without requiring consistent exertion or self-control. By creating positive propensities, you make a framework that consequently directs you toward your objectives. The key is understanding that propensities are little, rehashed activities that, over the long run, greatly affect your life. The initial step to outfitting the force of propensities is distinguishing the ones that line up with your objectives. For instance, to work on your well-being, a propensity like drinking water first thing or practicing for 30 minutes day to day can establish the vibe for a better way of life. Propensities work since they wipe out the requirement for navigation, liberating your psyche to zero in on additional critical difficulties. Via computerizing positive activities, you make consistency and dependability in your everyday existence. Building propensities takes time and tolerance. Begin little. Little activities are simpler to rehash and less overpowering. For example, to develop a propensity for perusing, start with only 5 minutes every day. Continuously increment the span as the propensity becomes imbued. Keep in mind, it's not necessary to focus on how large the propensity is toward the beginning. It's tied in with staying with it long enough for it to turn out to be essential for your everyday practice. Consistency is definitely more impressive than power with regards to propensity development. Getting out from under vices is similarly all around as significant as building great ones. To conquer hurtful propensities, supplant them with positive other options. For example, assuming you will generally linger by looking at online entertainment, supplant that propensity with something useful, such as arranging your work area or recording your needs. Propensities flourish with triggers, so by modifying your current circumstance and making new signs, you can guide yourself toward better activities. After some time, this substitution cycle makes it simpler to remain in charge of your ways of behaving. Eventually, propensities are the key to dominating your activities since they make energy. When positive propensities are set up, they build up themselves, making it simpler to remain restrained without consistent exertion. You never again need to depend on inspiration or self-control in light of the fact that your propensities convey you forward. By zeroing in on building propensities that serve your objectives, you assume command over your activities and make an establishment for long-haul achievement and self-restraint. Restraint is in excess of an expertise. A compass guides you toward the future you imagine. It enables you to settle on decisions that line up with your drawn-out objectives as opposed to surrendering to prompt delight or shallow choices. The capacity to tackle discretion implies you are no longer helpless before interruptions or outer tensions. All things being equal, you effectively shape your way and take responsibility for predetermination. Each choice you make, regardless of how little, adds to the existence you are building. At the point when you practice restraint, you're intentionally picking activities that draw you nearer to your fantasies. For instance, expressing no to a pointless buy, skirting a diverting online entertainment meeting, or focusing on your well-being over passing guilty pleasures might seem like little forfeits at the time, yet they make a gradually expanding influence that prompts huge accomplishments over the long run. Restraint guarantees that your everyday activities mirror the individual you need to turn into. One of the most remarkable ways of utilizing restraint to shape your predetermination is by laying out clear objectives. Without a characterized vision, it's not difficult to float erratically, responding to life instead of proactively building it. Restraint assists you with remaining fixed on those objectives, opposing interruptions or enticements that take steps to pull you off course. At the point when you have an unmistakable vision and the discipline to seek after it reliably, you foster a feeling of direction and bearing that drives you forward, in any event, when difficulties emerge. Difficulties and mishaps are unavoidable, yet restraint permits you to answer them in a productive manner. Rather than surrendering or falling back on undesirable survival techniques, you can channel your energy into tracking down arrangements and remaining focused on your objectives. Poise doesn't mean staying away from feelings or challenges. It implies overseeing them in a manner that reinforces your purpose as opposed to debilitates it. Conquering difficulties through discretion fabricates strength and certainty, supporting your capacity to shape your future. Discretion additionally empowers you to zero in on the drawn-out results of your activities. It assists you with focusing on the main thing, in any event, when the prizes are not prompt. This future-centered attitude keeps you from going with indiscreet choices that could wreck your advancement. For instance, deciding to put resources into self-improvement, set aside cash or work on a difficult undertaking may not give moment satisfaction, but rather these restrained decisions make the establishment for enduring achievement and satisfaction. By utilizing poise to pursue purposeful choices, you adjust your activities to your qualities and yearnings. This arrangement makes a feeling of concordance and credibility in your life. You never again feel torn between what you need now and what you need most. All things being equal, you experience the fulfillment of living in arrangement with your objectives, realizing that each step you take is driving you nearer to the existence you want. At last, discretion enables you to compose your own story. It places the pen in your grasp, permitting you to conclude how your life unfurls. Rather than being a detached member, you become the creator of your fate, making a day-to-day existence that mirrors your most elevated potential. Poise isn't about limitation. It's about opportunity, the opportunity to carry on with an existence of direction, goal and achievement. At the point when you ace discretion, you open the capacity to shape your predetermination and accomplish significance according to your very own preferences. Section 7 Taking care of outer tensions with beauty. Outside pressures are an inescapable piece of life. From cultural assumptions to peer pressure and the consistent requests of work or family, it can feel like the world is attempting to direct your activities. In any case, excelling at taking care of outside pressures with effortlessness is a foundation of restraint. At the point when you answer tranquilly and intentionally instead of responding hastily, you keep up with command over your decisions and remain lined up with your objectives. The initial step to dealing with outside pressures is perceiving their source. Frequently, we feel overpowered in light of the fact that we attempt to live up to everybody's assumptions disregarding our own needs. Pause for a minute to consider the tensions in your day-to-day existence. Might it be said that they are coming from others' viewpoints, social standards or unreasonable assumptions you've set for yourself? By recognizing these sources, you can isolate the main thing from what doesn't and center around what lines up with your qualities and goals. One of the best apparatuses for overseeing outside pressures is figuring out how to express no without culpability. Saying no doesn't mean you're being childish or contemptuous. It implies you're safeguarding your energy and remaining consistent with your needs. At the point when you're clear about your objectives, it becomes more straightforward to define limits and decline solicitations or assumptions that don't line up with them. Smoothly saying no can be all around as basic as communicating appreciation for the open door while making sense of that it doesn't squeeze into your ongoing responsibilities. Rehearsing mindfulness is one more key to dealing with outer tensions. At the point when you feel compelled, interruption and take a full breath prior to answering. This snapshot of reflection permits you to assess whether the tension lines up with your qualities and long-haul objectives. Ask yourself, is this something I genuinely need or have to do? Or then again, am I doing this to satisfy others to the detriment of my own prosperity? By establishing yourself in mindfulness, you can go with choices that mirror your needs as opposed to surrendering to outer requests. Elegance under tension additionally includes dealing with your close-to-home responses. Outer tensions frequently accompany analysis, judgment or unreasonable assumptions which can set off disappointment or protectiveness. Rather than responding inwardly, work on remaining cool-headed and made. Center around answering mindfully, utilizing thoughtfulness and self-assuredness to impart your limits. This approach safeguards your inward feeling of harmony as well as gains appreciation from others as it shows certainty and close-to-home development. Building an emotionally supportive network can likewise assist you with exploring outer tensions. Encircle yourself with individuals who regard your limits and support your development. Having steady companions, coaches or relatives to go to can give consolation and viewpoint when outside pressures feel overpowering. They can help you to remember your objectives and assist you with remaining grounded, guaranteeing you don't fail to focus on the main thing. One more fundamental expertise for dealing with outside pressures is relinquishing the requirement for endorsement. The craving to satisfy everybody frequently prompts pointless pressure and splits the difference. Comprehend that it's difficult to live up to everybody's assumptions, and that is completely fine. Center rather around living genuinely and pursuing decisions that line up with your qualities. By focusing on self-confidence over outer approval, you free yourself from the weight of consistent endorsement chasing. Time usage assumes a significant part in overseeing outer requests with beauty. At the point when you plan your day purposefully, it's simpler to apportion time for the main thing and express no to interruptions or superfluous responsibilities. A very much organized plan gives you the certainty to stand firm in your choices as need might arise to be coordinated. Ultimately, recall that taking care of outer tensions with effortlessness is an expertise that takes practice. There will be minutes when you feel overpowered or vacillate in keeping up with your limits, and that is completely fine. What is important is your ability to gain and develop from these encounters. Each time you explore outer tensions with discretion and beauty, you reinforce your capacity to keep up with harmony, concentration, and arrangement with your actual self. Through persistence and practice, you can become amazing at remaining made and strong regardless of what outside challenges come your direction. Poise is definitely not a one-time exertion. An expertise should be developed and supported over the long run. Like some other propensity, keeping up with poise requires steady practice and purposefulness. About making a way of life upholds discipline and flexibility, in any event, when confronted with difficulties and enticements. Supporting poise separates short eruptions of progress from long-haul achievement. The groundwork of supporting poise lies in mindfulness. Consistently checking in with yourself permits you to comprehend what triggers you, what propels you, and where you may slip. Mindfulness assists you with remaining careful and change your activities before they go astray. It additionally keeps you grounded, helping you to remember your objectives and the reasons you began rehearsing poise in any case. Putting forth reasonable and attainable objectives is one more key to keeping up with poise. At the point when objectives are excessively aggressive or ambiguous, they can become overpowering, prompting disappointment and loss of concentration. Break your bigger objectives into more modest, noteworthy advances that you can accomplish over the long haul. Praising these little wins builds up your poise and inspires you to continue onward. Building schedules is one of the best ways of supporting restraint. Schedules dispose of the need to settle on choices over and over, which saves mental energy and lessens the possibilities yielding to interruptions or allurements. For instance, setting a predictable morning schedule can assist you with beginning your day with concentration and reason, making it simpler to keep up with discipline over the course of the day. Responsibility is one more incredible asset for supporting poise. Share your objectives with a confided-in companion, tutor, or responsibility accomplice who can energize you and keep you on target. Ordinary registrations with somebody who comprehends your process can give inspiration and assist you with flowing right when required. Knowing that another person has put resources into your advancement adds an additional layer of responsibility. Rehearsing care is fundamental for keeping up with poise over the long run. Life is brimming with unforeseen difficulties and responding imprudently seemingly out of the blue is simple. Care trains you to stop, reflect, and answer purposefully as opposed to responsively. This training reinforces your capacity to keep composed and zeroed in any event, when feelings are high or conditions are troublesome. Supporting discretion additionally requires dealing with your current circumstance successfully. The conditions you invest energy in altogether affect your way of behaving. Encircle yourself with individuals, spaces, and assets that help your objectives. Eliminate superfluous allurements and interruptions from your current circumstance to make it more straightforward to remain trained. A strong climate goes about as a support against snapshots of shortcoming. Strength is a basic part of long-haul poise. There will be times when you face misfortunes or surrender to enticement, and that is important for the excursion. Rather than harping on botches, use them as learning open doors. Consider what turned out badly, change your procedure, and push ahead with recharged assurance. Versatility permits you to return rapidly and remain focused. Actual well-being assumes an imperative part in supporting poise. Your capacity to settle on focused decisions is straightforwardly connected to your energy levels, mental clearness, and generally speaking prosperity. Focus on rest, sustenance, and exercise as a feature of your day-to-day daily practice. At the point when your body and psyche are looking great, you're better prepared to oppose driving forces and keep fixed on your objectives. One more significant part of supporting restraint is remaining associated with your why. Help yourself consistently to remember the more profound explanations for your objectives. Whether it's accomplishing a fantasy, working on your connections, or turning into your best self, keeping your why extremely important to you gives a strong wellspring of inspiration. Record it on paper, imagine it, or make a dream board to keep it unmistakable. Staying balanced is fundamental for keeping up with poise. Propelling yourself excessively hard without breaks can prompt depletion and loss of inspiration. Plan normal times of rest and unwinding to re-energize your energy and forestall burnout. Restraint is a long-distance race, not a run, and finding a steady speed guarantees you have the endurance to remain trained over an extended time. Versatility is one more key to supporting poise. Life is erratic, and conditions can change. Change your methodologies and objectives on a case-by-case basis while remaining focused on your overall vision. Adaptability permits you to explore snags with elegance and flexibility, guaranteeing that you stay lined up with your drawn-out goals. Rehearsing appreciation can likewise improve your capacity to support discretion. At the point when you center around what you have as opposed to what you need, you make an outlook of overflow that lessens the longing for moment satisfaction. Appreciation moves your viewpoint and assists you with valuing the headway you've made, supporting your obligation to your objectives. Perception is a strong strategy for keeping up with discretion. Require a couple of moments every day to envision yourself effectively exploring difficulties and accomplishing your objectives. Envisioning achievements supports your faith in your capacity to remain trained and centered. It likewise makes a positive mental picture that spurs you to make a steady move. Ultimately, praise your advancement en route. Recognizing your accomplishments, regardless of how little, supports your responsibility and lifts your certainty. Each step you take toward your objectives is a demonstration of your discretion and assurance. Commending these achievements helps you to remember how far you've come and urges you to continue to push ahead. Supporting poise over the long run is an excursion of development, versatility, and deliberateness. It requires reliable exertion, yet the prizes are worth the effort. At the point when you fabricate a day-to-day existence established in discipline and reason, you open the capacity to accomplish your fantasies, defeat difficulties, and live with certainty. Poise isn't simply an expertise, a lifestyle engages you to make what's in store.